Good morning. It is 10:04 a.m. on Sunday, April the 8th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellison. It's my birthday. And this is 5 more minutes. It's Sunday, so Sunday is when I generally do my rewatch of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. And in theory, I could do something else because it's my birthday. But because it's my birthday, I'm going to do what I want to do, which is to do my rewatch of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. So I'm going to do that. Here it is. This week we are talking about episode 21, Left Behind Trace Eraser. And we're in the thick of this climactic arc now, where the Laughing Man case is once again heating up in a major way. And so, if you recall, we left off last week. Togusa had made a breakthrough in the case where he traced a missing list of vaccine recipients to the Sunflower Society, which was an organization that was supposed to try to break this information to the public, revealing that a number of high-profile people had received this vaccine that was actually not approved for, actual medical use, despite the fact that it obviously works. And it begins to look like it's all a big conspiracy for people who work with the micro machine industry to support that industry and prop it up and make a bunch of profits for people who are on the inside of this whole arrangement and burying the vaccine. And a lot of the people involved, as we talked to one of the guys in this episode, still have a lot of their own personal justifications that and rationalizations that they try to make. They say, oh, well, the micro machine industry was early, and if some other medical vaccine worked better early on, then people wouldn't have supported the industry, where the industry is actually helping a lot of people now, and it might not have ever gotten its right start if we hadn't tried to help it along. And the Laughing Man. So this is a scene where we have the Laughing Man confronting this guy Imakarus in his hotel room, having taken control of a waiter to interrogate him about it, and basically just says, yeah, your concern about the industry really shows in the way that you profited hugely by making all of these insider deals with these companies that got early approvals for their release, despite not having any data, given that that was your whole reason for denying the vaccine. You had a special stamp made to deny the vaccine and saying that it was because they didn't have enough data, but then you also approved other micro machine things that didn't have any data at all because they didn't actually even work at all, and you personally profited by it. And it's like, yeah, your rationalizations really start to fall apart when we realize how much personal profit you made from all of that. And the total hypocrisy of you actually secretly using the vaccine yourself, even though you've denied it to other people. Anyway. So that seems like the obvious conspiracy here. But the problem is there's so many high-profile people involved that it becomes a question for Section 9. Togusa had been under attack when the Sunflower Society was raided by the Narcotics Suppression Squad as part of the Drug Enforcement Agency here in Japan. And they went in and shot up the place, and Togusa was shot himself while fleeing. We see that he's made it to the hospital and he is in critical condition, but Section 9 has them read his memories even while he's undergoing surgery to, help him stay alive. And it's interesting, too, that we get a moment of, learning from the doctors that he'll recover, but that he will likely have to accept some prosthetics work. Which is just notable in the sense that Togusa, out of all of Section 9, had been one of the few members who really was almost totally biologically human. Sorry, my nose is running a little bit. Anyway, where was I? So, Section 9 reads Togas's memories, and because he was under anesthetic, that's a nice justification for having all of the Section 9. They say, we may actually be influenced by his emotional responses at the time, and so everyone is mad and frustrated after watching those memories. But the problem is, this is a high-tech government agency that has just killed a bunch of civilians in order to keep something super secret. Bato is enraged by that, and, he should be, right? But he wants to just immediately say, well, let's just go, tell everybody what they just did. And Aramaki is saying, see, but the problem is, they planned this up. They're going to already have their own version of the story that they're getting out for people, and we're not going to be able to prove it. And it's a trickier proposition, because if you have powerful, influential people who are involved in this conspiracy, they're not going to just say, okay, yeah, you got us, conspiracy over, we'll tell you everything. So they have to plan this a little more carefully. And so in particular, they think we need to track down this Imakarus guy, this guy who is involved in the conspiracy and who could maybe actually testify. And so essentially that puts them in the same position as the Laughing Man, who also kind of wants that. But it puts them in opposition to the Narcotics Suppression Squad, who, now that they have become convinced that, so last week we saw a conversation with Imakarus and some of the other people, the head of the DEA, telling, talking to each other. And at that point, Imakarus was denying that he actually did it. But it seems clear now that he did. Or, no, okay, I take it back. It seems clear now that he has gone into hiding because people will think that he did. But the Laughing Man is who actually, did it. And so the Laughing Man did it in order to kind of force the issue, to say that, I'm good, you might as well come public now because I'm forcing your hand anyway. And it's a little bit, in some ways, reminiscent of a slicker version of the original Laughing Man incident, where what he did is he kidnapped the head of the Serrano Genomics company and basically forced him at gunpoint to try to make him admit what was happening. So it's getting complicated already, just trying to describe all of this and put it into context. But in any event, Section 9 now needs to find Imakarus, and they discover that his house has already been burned. The DEA got there first, the Narcotics Suppression Squad. So they're trying to track him down. And here's where we get, it's this three-way race to get to him, right? The Laughing Man already knows where he is, but has a limited ability to do anything. Like, he can hack various things on a small scale, and he can get in and out, with the hacking and everything, but he has less leverage to actually do any of the major stuff. So whereas Section 9 versus the NSS, the Narcotics Suppression Squad, each are going to fight for control. NSS presumably just going to kill him. Section 9 hoping to bring him in. We get a great moment with Aramaki basically just going to this guy at the head of the DEA, and we see this guy that we know is involved, and Aramaki's basically just like, hey, we at Section 9 noticed that you guys, pulled a bunch of strings and violated some unusual protocol in order to raid this Sunflower Society. I was just wondering, why'd you do that? And so this is where the head of the DEA gives the whole spin version, like, here's, this is what we're going to tell people, which is to say, oh, well, it turns out they're a terrorist organization. We lost some people too, and they were so crazy they had to burn down the whole building. And this is, and Aramaki's like, oh, okay, so that's what you're going with. And this also, corroborates what we saw last week, which is once Togusa managed to shoot a couple of that team member, the guy with the beard finished them off because he said, yeah, we need to lose some people too. So, in any event, what we're left with is Aramaki saying, oh, okay, well, if that's what was going on, I guess Section 9 doesn't need to be involved. But here's the thing. One more question. He's doing a little Columbo on him. It's like, see, because we were interested because it just turned out, just by coincidence, that one of our guys was actually there when it happened. So, just, yeah, I'll let you go now. And, and those two are like, oh, shoot, because that basically is going to mean that they, Aramaki has just let them know in his little sideways way, we know you're full of crap, and we're going to maybe do something about it. So it was interesting, actually, that he chose to tip them off in that way. I'm actually, in hindsight, I'm kind of wondering whether that was the right thing. I suppose he's just trying to keep them off balance. And he wanted to, I guess, get a sense of what they were going to say. But in any event, all of this leads to this showdown because Imakurus is actually hiding out in this hotel because his house was burned. And the Laughing Man knows where he is. Section 9 knows where he is because they pull in a favor from the American Empire and just do like mass surveillance in a way that's kind of brushed aside, like it's just sort of a side detail, but it's really a little bit alarming that essentially they're saying, yeah, we're going to monitor every single telecommunication event in Japan for who knows how long, just to see if anybody is talking about this guy. And they kind of, and in fact, to deal with all of the data, Ishikawa specifically says that they are sort of borrowing processing power from the brains of people in these weird video pachinko parlors. So all of that seems really like an egregious use of power that we are supposed to kind of be a fan of because it's the good guys doing it. But boy, they kind of really blow by the ethical implications of all of that. But I think there's this weird tone to it where they're kind of implying it's like, well, we're borrowing the Americans' technology and we get to be all wry and judgmental about the Americans doing it while we use that technology for our own benefit. Anyway, so they do all of that, and that's how they track down this guy. But unfortunately, they're able to track him down via the same phone call that also tips off the NSS, because this guy disobeys the Laughing Man's instructions, calls his buddies trying to still say, look, I'm not really opposed to you guys. I don't want to be killed. Please let me come in and apologize. But so what that all means is we end up with this big showdown where Section 9 is trying to rescue him. We've got Bato and the Major going in, but they're in opposition to this big military robot controlled by one of the guys on the NSS, and it's hugely dangerous. The Major ends up saying, I'll take it, I'll draw its fire while Bato tries to get Imakuru's out. And we have a great big action sequence where this thing is more than a match for the Major, and it's like literally all she can do to try to keep getting away from it. Keep it distracted, but escape. Like, she doesn't really even have any effort expended initially towards trying to damage it back. She's just trying to distract it long enough to let Bato and this other guy get away. And then ultimately it manages to hit her, and we see it blows off one of her arms and knocks her stunned for a moment. And it looks like it's trying to crush her head against the pavement, and it looks really, really bad, like she's about to be go out. And in fact, it's really only because Saito and his huge super duper sniper rifle is able to dent it, that it knocks it off of her, and she is able to turn the tables. But we also see at this point that the Major, once pressed hard enough, gets really intense. I mean, not like she's not an intense character all the time, but at this point, what we specifically see is that she grabs this super duper sniper rifle, which she's strong enough to just wield like a shotgun, and she just point blank uses the sniper rifle to dent this armor suit repeatedly. And we can see there's a little bit of an angry rage obsession going on there, because the guy, once he's on the ground, says, wait, I'll open the hatch. Like, he's essentially surrendering, but she continues to shoot the armor to the point where presumably what's happening is he's having trouble breathing because the armor is being compressed around him. And she almost, so what we can say is that this is some slightly out of control behavior from a character who is normally defined by her level of control. So pretty intense, kind of exciting. In the meantime, Bato almost gets Imakuruz to the helicopter to get him away, but then he wanders off because he sees the Laughing Man. And then, unfortunately, the head of the DEA, who had his security person following Bato, it's actually not super clear how they managed to follow him in that way, but whatever. They managed to kill Imakuruz, but not before Bato is able to receive from the Laughing Man the other copy of the list. So, Section 9, despite losing Imakuruz and his ability to testify, still have the list. Now, they have the document that's the proof. Then the Laughing Man demonstrates his ability to just, in the snap of his fingers, live hack Bato's eyes so that Bato can't see him, and he's able to just walk away. So where we're left at the end of this one is that it is essentially open conflict now between Section 9 and the NSS. That they've actively fought each other, but Section 9 presumably would have this one guy from the robot suit as a prisoner, and they have the list. But they've also lost a couple of the people that they were trying to protect, which isn't good. You know, they've had a couple of losses. Togus is in the hospital, they've lost a couple of people they were trying to protect. And then the Laughing Man is still out there doing stuff. So, boy, it's all a crazy mess right now. So we'll see how it continues to develop in next week's episode 22, which is called Corporate Graft Scandal. All right, now I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.